Assassin's Creed is one of my favorite game series of all time, probably my favorite ever. I've spent many hours playing through the series. I have extremely fond memories of these games, whether it's pulling off a perfect stealth section, finding secrets in the games, like the truth, or experiencing a vast historical landscape. Yet, we live in a very different time for the Assassin's Creed series. Once a powerhouse of a series, it is often now seen as a bloated open world that many have written off. And it's hard to disagree with that assessment. Even I, a person that's played many hours of Assassin's Creed games over the years, have worn down on the bloated open worlds, plus the ways that the game have disappointed me over the years. The goal of this video is to assess and discuss the first two titles of the Assassin's Creed series. I want to talk about what I love about these first two Assassin's Creed titles. So before we talk about the influential games that laid the foundation of where the series would go, I do want to give a quick disclaimer. I will be talking moderate spoilers for the first two games in the series, and potentially light spoilers for other games in the series. I don't plan to go out of my way to spoil stuff, but there might be some key things I talk about to show changes to the game series and argue the quality of these older titles. Also, this is the biggest video I've ever made, from writing the script, to recording and collecting footage, and editing. I would really appreciate it if you could leave a like. You can also subscribe or comment about your feelings about these games if you would like to show further support. It really helps the channel. So, without any further ado, let's begin. So let's start with the original Assassin's Creed game. There are many positive things that I can say about the first Assassin's Creed game, but I think that there's really only one thing that's truly necessary to say, and that is Altair. Altair is one of the coolest assassins in the history of the game series, and I might argue that they have not made a cooler character since. I might recognize the argument that they have created deeper, more interesting characters, yet Altair just has a cool factor in a way that none of the other assassins have been able to top. I remember someone that hadn't played the game asking me many years ago about the game and the character. I told them about the game's opening, where you pick up in the middle of this mission where Altair is sent to eliminate a target with another assassin. Altair is an overconfident assassin. He manages to mess up, gets one of his companions killed, and the other injured, and is reprimanded, losing all of his gear. Through all of that, and even the loss of his gear, he's still the coolest assassin ever. The game really hits a great Castlevania Symphony of the Night feeling. If you are unaware, in Symphony of the Night, you show up to a castle as Alucard, Dracula's son. You are fully powered with all of this gear, and you're stripped of that gear by the character Death. You spend the game collecting the gear you lost, as well as additional gear. This might seem like a tangent, but this is very similar to how Assassin's Creed 1 approaches this. The Assassin Order takes all of your gear for messing up, and you have to prove yourself by completing tasks and contracts to gain your gear back. It's a really great way to give you a system where you become more powerful while playing as a character that has a lot of experience and legacy. I remember the first Assassin's Creed game being shown at E3. I was super interested in it the first time I saw it. I don't really even know why I latched onto the game so much. I just remember thinking it was a super interesting looking game. I honestly don't remember if they had shown the modern day setting. If so, that might have been what pulled me in. And I remember getting it for my birthday that year and just locking in on it so much. I truly love the Assassin's Creed series from that point on. Speaking of the modern day setting, we cannot talk enough about how amazing of an idea it was to mix the historical and modern day settings together in the AC series. Being able to leave the Animus to get fragments of the story to better understand why Desmond was being forced to live his ancestors' memories felt so unique. It was such an interesting system of storytelling, using both past and present to build tension. Having events that players and characters experienced matter to modern setting was a nice change of pace in storytelling, something that will grow as we talk about more games within the series. While there are many positive things that I can say about the first Assassin's Creed game, that does not mean that the game is without its flaws. An example that has lived in my mind for many years now is the part where you are running in a building and someone is point-blank firing arrows at you. It is nearly impossible to dodge the arrows in that moment, and is probably the most frustrating part of the game. Mix that with outdated systems and repetitive gameplay. Speaking of that, every arc of the game is listening to a conversation and then doing a couple of tasks before you go to complete a contract. This gameplay loop just starts to feel a little old as you go through the game. Yet, it is still worth it to watch the growth of Altair. Watching him grow from a great assassin to a great man. In my opinion, I think the greatest growth stories in Assassin's Creed belong to Altair and Ezio, a character I will talk about later in this video. These two characters are easily my favorite of the assassins, and while I have others that I will talk about in the future, I think these two have such meaningful stories. Now, I don't want to spoil a whole lot about Altair's story and the game's ending. I think the ending of the first Assassin's Creed game is pretty amazing. It's also a game that came out in 2007, so if you go back and play it and feel differently, I am sorry. I experienced it in a different time of gaming, and I was younger. I still feel that it did a good job of giving amazing character moments and setting up the future of the series by revealing a major plot point at the end of the game. So let's talk about hard truths. While I still think the first Assassin's Creed game is an amazing game with a great story, it suffers from being graphically outdated, having repetitive and at times frustrating gameplay, and limited access for those who would like to play it today. I think one of the best things that could be done for it is a reimagining. I want to keep the game story mostly the same. I know that there are ways that the story, gameplay, and system/scope could be improved. I want to be very clear though. I do not want it to be remade with the RPG side of AC's engine. I want Ubisoft Bordeaux to make it either from scratch or use the tools of Mirage to make it. I think Mirage was the closest we've gotten to the original Assassin's Creed games in a long time, and it would be great to see that team get a chance to reimagine the first Assassin's Creed game, and maybe even get a stab at another original game. These are both things I actually have mentioned in my last Assassin's Creed video if you want to go watch that for a bit more in depth. In conclusion, I still think the first Assassin's Creed is such a strong first step in the series. Even with all the missteps of the Assassin's Creed series over the years, there's a reason these games still exist. The game has such strong foundations and impressed so many with its first two games. So why don't we talk about the follow-up to this amazing game? Assassin's Creed 2 is probably my favorite game, ever. I've replayed it once or twice a year since its release. It's a pretty standard thing for a game to release, and then for a sequel to release and improve on many of the missteps of the first game. Yet, while the first AC game has its flaws, it's a pretty impressive game that brought many into the series in its first outing. So what happens when you have a great game and you make a sequel that improves on most of the flaws of the first game? Well, you get Assassin's Creed 2. Where do I start with Assassin's Creed 2? I guess we should start with Ezio. When this game released, I remember thinking, how do you follow up Altair? He was so cool and had such a good arc across the entirety of the game. Well, you make the new character a rich, spoiled brat that has a lot to learn and has to grow up when he loses his family, learning quickly how to become a more responsible man. His story has always given me a very Count of Monte Cristo or Batman vibe. The idea of a man that is wanting to live a young and reckless life, who is then thrusted into the world of assassins where he seeks revenge for the wrongs that were made against his family. This is also a game that really felt like they wanted to start playing with history. We get characters like Leonardo da Vinci in the story, and we get to experience a more realized version of a historical world through cities like Venice and Florence. The game also made some changes to how mission structure operated. The main missions became sequences and featured a few side missions available during the sequence until you finished the main mission. I think this change added variety to the main story. It was a lot better than doing the same 3 tasks over and over again like we had been in the first Assassin's Creed game. The first game also had a lot of static moments where you were just standing around listening to like the head of the assassins or your handler. I guess that's the best way to describe that character. But the second game really pushed the idea of more detailed cutscenes and having you interact with a wider variety of NPCs. The story structure just made for a more interesting and cinematic style. Gameplay was also advanced a bit in Assassin's Creed 2 as compared to the first title. We saw the inclusion of a second hidden blade that allowed for players to take down 2 targets at once. We were also given the ability to use a hidden gun later in the story. These were both very interesting gameplay advancements, and I honestly find it interesting that we have not seen the inclusion of the hidden gun in any of the other games throughout the franchise, unless I'm just having a moment and I'm not remembering its inclusion in any of the other titles. But outside of that, we had general gameplay fixes, improvements to the climbing in the game, the ability to store healing items to quickly heal from a fall or from combat, plus combat improvements in general. We also, of course, have to talk about the modern day stuff in Assassin's Creed 2. The modern day stuff has always fascinated me. You probably have noticed that from, me talking about the different aspects of the modern day story for both games in this video. This game really pushed that forward by having more characters with more interactions every time you came out of the Animus. It also allowed for a better sense of understanding the state of the modern world and allowed us to better understand Desmond and the modern day assassins. I will also try to control myself while I talk about this next aspect. The truth is one of my favorite things in a video game ever. The idea of using religious and historic paintings to get a glimpse at the first civilization is just really fascinating to me. I remember the first time I found one of these symbols that led me to having to complete one of the truth puzzles. It had such a neat and creepy vibe. Having this religious painting that I'm trying to find secrets in and having it play this clip that features the shaky cam and it's this man and woman running. I mean, that just blew my mind at the time. It was just such an interesting concept for a game to do this because you had this I'm searching through this painting for secrets, and then once I figure it out, I get just this glimpse of the civilization that we don't really know what it is. It was just such a neat moment. It's truly the most exciting moment I've had in a video game. The truth was such a neat thing that I truly never feel like Assassin's Creed really ever got back to. We've never really seen anything like the truth again throughout the series. They've done things where they've tried to get close to it, but I just don't feel like they've ever been able to fully replicate it. And then tack on the moments at the end of the story where you actually get to fight waves of Abstergo agents as Desmond. That moment is one of that always kind of felt like a tipping point for the modern day story. And taking it seriously. Another key moment to the modern day storyline is when we get to experience the moment as Ezio. Him seeing the message that was left behind by the first civilization. The moment is so cool on its own, yet whenever the woman from the first civilization starts talking past Ezio and speaks directly to Desmond is a moment that I won't soon forget. That may be one of the trippiest things in a video game. The first two games do a lot right for setting up the legacy of the Assassin's Creed series and establishing the modern setting. I think Assassin's Creed and Assassin's Creed 2 stand among the giants when it comes to the video game industry. I'm not saying they're the best games ever made, but I do think that they should be in the conversation. These two games put down the roots for the series, and I honestly think that a lot of the modern day Assassin's Creed games are still coasting off of the story and the systems that these games established, while even removing stuff that were fundamental to the Assassin's Creed series. One being the modern day, something that has really been put on the back burner when it comes to recent game storytelling. Removal of secrets like the truth have also been something that has stripped Assassin's Creed of its identity. I personally think it would be great to see things like the truth come back to the Assassin's Creed series in the modern day storytelling. I think that's something that the games are truly missing, is some kind of, out of the main game, trying to figure out something about Abstergo or the first civilization or where the pieces of Eden are. I think that's something that would very much benefit the game series. Now, I did talk about earlier Assassin's Creed 1 and how I think that it is in dire need of a reimagining. I don't feel the same way for Assassin's Creed 2. I think Assassin's Creed 2 improved a lot of stuff. Could you make a reimagined version of Assassin's Creed 2? Of course you could. But I think, honestly, just remastering that game, making some of the systems just work a little bit better, making combat maybe feel a little bit smoother, making, the game just graphically look a little nicer, improve frame rate, all of that stuff. Just more of a remastering than a remake, I think would be plenty for Assassin's Creed 2. Obviously, again, you could reimagine it. I'm sure that there's plenty that you can do with the game. But yeah, I don't think that it is in nearly as much need as the first game is. I think it still pretty much stands as a pretty great game. So I hope that this retrospective has made it evident that I really like the series, and I would like to see, in some ways, it return to the systems that made it the series it once was. I also want to point out that I have titled this video Part 1. I am planning on making more of these videos for the entirety of the Assassin's Creed series. So if you like this video, please leave a like, leave a comment about your feelings on these games, or please subscribe so that you can see the future videos. Those things really help the channel grow and help me know if people are interested in more content like this. I'd originally planned on making this video include Assassin's Creed 1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, and 3. Kind of make a video about the original trilogy, in quotations, since, it's 5 games. But I was making this video, and it felt like a lot. I think that tackling this game in pairs might be more effective. I may edit this into a bigger grouping in the future if people are interested in that, but for now, I think this is the best way to tackle it. So I want to thank you all for watching. If you made it this far, I truly appreciate it. I really find the series fascinating. I hope that this video will do well so I can talk about more of the games in this series. Hopefully you all have enjoyed this video. I hope that you all have a wonderful day. See you all in the next one. Peace out, everyone.